So, Jeffrey.
That's me.
Jeffrey, where are we right now?
Well, we're at Monticello, which is behind there, the main house.
Should I?
Just turn around. Yeah, it's kind of there.
It's basically
But
there.
we like this angle because there's the view.
Yeah.
Which Jefferson pretty much owned all that too. And I'm here for Southern Literature class for Professor Critchfield. And yes.
Okay.
Bill, ask me questions.
All right. Well, Southern literature. What is that?
Well, it's basically literature, but from a southern edge. And the main thing that I've come to learn is that it's a part of certain aspects of it, which would be local color, which would be like all the things around southern literature, like certain like areas, like the type of humor, the types of things people would buy, adding that all together. Or southern grotesque, which would be the really like bizarre, almost disgusting elements of southern literature. So those are all aspects of it, but we're here because Thomas Jefferson, we read something for Thomas Jefferson in class, Notes on Virginia, which mainly dealt with his opinion on slavery. And unfortunately, his view on it wasn't exactly the most positive. He really did not see them as equal humans, but we're coming here today because it would be good for this project and to learn more about him in general.
Okay. Why would you go to somebody who supports racism?
Because even though he has all these charges against him, he was still a very intelligent man, and it makes it kind of blurring the lines kind of thing, because this place is so beautiful and it's just hard to imagine what was used to build this. So we're learning more about it, I would say.
Okay, well, are there any other aspects of Southern literature that you'd find here?
Well, the type of scenery is definitely what we'd see in Southern literature.
Yes.
The finding the beauty in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely with the kind of the lush surroundings of it, like with the rolling fields. You could probably see that in a lot of literature. I mean, there'd probably be local humor, local color because of the aspects of the slavery and stuff too. Probably not a whole lot of humor, like any of the like Southern humor would be here, but I could definitely see like someone being inspired. Okay, everybody, we're going to have some photos in between the videos, and I'll narrate just to give some context. These are just some basic nature shots to show some of the surroundings of Monticello. That was an extremely weird tree. I was terrified of it. This is Mulberry Lane. This is where all the slave families lived on, and that's basically a garden there. It was much further, but it was interesting to walk on because there would be like an iron ore house, a wood weaving house, all sorts of things, and it was interesting. That was our tour guide for the slavery tour. She was pretty funny. The house behind her is basically what a slave family would live in, and they could very easily have up to 8 kids because the biggest thing that gave profit to a plantation is the ability to give birth to more slaves, which was pretty dark to find out. This is the actual auction letter for Monticello. After Thomas Jefferson died, they had to auction off Monticello. So the main thing that was interesting about the auction letter was the fact that they had so many slaves they had to auction off too. And he had about 500 slaves overall on Monticello. It's just crazy to think how many people lived there. And that's me just trying to be stoic and all cool and stuff, but you know I'm not cool at all. But I'll see you in a little bit, I suppose.
Okay, so Jeffrey,
Hi.
what did you just do?
We just took the house tour of Monticello.
All right, so what did you learn in there?
Learned a lot of stuff. He has a very big French influence on everything, and I don't know. I guess it was pretty cool. He was a very big art person, very much influenced by art, and that showed off, I guess, his intelligence to a degree. But it was just really cool.
Did you have a favorite part to the house?
I kind of like seeing the beds. The beds are always in like alcoves, like there's always like a wall or something, everything, and he had like a kind of like a version of an alarm clock in a way to help him get up, and that's what we all do today. So, good
Yay.
job.
Any literature in the house?
Oh yeah, Thomas Jefferson. We saw some of Thomas Jefferson's library, what it would look like. Obviously, we don't have all those books, but we did see some of his original books, and he actually had 4 volumes of Don Quixote, which that kind of surprised me, and a Spanish dictionary because he could write in 7 languages. Let's see if I can remember: English, French, Latin, Greek. Did I say French? Anglo-Saxon, Italian.
Okay.
I
All
win points.
right.
So I deserve bonus points.
right, where are we gonna go now, Jeffrey?
We're probably gonna go ahead and explore the underground portion, which is self-guided, and then we're gonna go by the gardens, and we'll probably film that because it's gonna be really pretty, even with the clouds like that.
Yay.
So, see you in a bit.
Okay, so that is me, and we are at the back side of Monticello. The front side was really busy with a bunch of people going in and out, but for the most part, it looks very similar. The only difference is there's humongous glass doors that lead into the parlor area because back then the president would meet anyone who came in. So you can notice a really big Roman architectural influence on Monticello, and Jefferson loved that because he was an architect, and in fact, every government building afterwards was inspired by Monticello to have that design, and that's why almost every government building has, the Roman pillars and that style of architecture. Kind of cool. We went ahead and walked back over to Mulberry Lane to look at the gardens here, and here we are standing. This is what it would look like back in Thomas Jefferson's times, basically, just with all different types of herbs and spices growing. He started with tobacco, and then he actually changed to wheat, but it actually ended up not very, very financially successful overall. He just wasn't there to oversee enough, so that was probably one of the main issues that Jefferson had with Monticello. And this is just us looking over the acres. He owned a huge amount of acre property all around Monticello, just throughout the entire area. It was ridiculous almost. But it's just sad that he wasn't, even with everything that happened, he couldn't make much of a profit out of it. And he died in debt, too. So, it's just hard. It's hard to be successful. That's all I got from this experience, basically. Yep.
Is it mint? Mint.
Okay, and now we're going to head over to the Monticello Gardens. Exciting stuff, guys. Alright, so now we are taking a slight walking tour through the gardens at Monticello. Basically, it's a big loop. You come out the back side of Monticello, and then you can go in like a big circle, and then you can come back to it. And I'm trying not to look too far to the right because there's a big tent, because one of Jefferson's great-great-great-grandchildren, they had like a conference here, so I just wanted to show you some of the flowers that are on the path. It was such a beautiful day, and some of the image quality isn't quite there. You can't see just how bright the flowers were, but they were extremely bright, and it just smelled really great to be there. It was really cool.
Okay.
The guy was so hot.
He really was. I missed him.
was so hot.
Yeah, they're bad. Jeffrey, what did you learn about Thomas Jefferson? Some of the good things and, more the negative things.
Okay. Some good things. He always was trying out a lot of different ideas. One of the things that was very difficult to keep money on a plantation was when the master left, and Thomas Jefferson was not here a lot. So a lot of times, Monticello did not turn out a very huge profit. So I learned one of the things he did to save, build up money, was that he had very young slave boys starting at 10 make nails, like a blacksmithing, kind of situation where they'd make nails for a long period of time. That made a huge profit. I learned that he was really into education for all his children. He loved music, and he really instilled that onto his kids to be very educated. Took that same passion that he had. So I guess some of the other surprising things was that he died in pretty extreme debt, over $1,000 in debt, which that is not counting inflation, so that's a pretty good amount. He only freed 7 slaves in his entire lifetime. Even though he was very much about every man being created equal, and that slavery is appalling, he owned at least 500 slaves, but only freed 7 in his lifetime. So that's kind of a big generation.
So, Virginia is technically considered the South by most people.
Yes.
So would you consider yourself a Southerner?
I guess I actually would not consider myself a Southerner. I don't know what I would consider myself. My dad is from Virginia, and all his family is, the Payne family, and I would probably consider them the old-fashioned Southern type, probably more on sort of conservative values mixed in with, other things I guess would be considered cliches, like hunting and always big family get-together stuff, which is nothing wrong with that. But there's always like this type of pride, I guess, that Southerners feel towards the South, and I've just never been prideful about anything really. And my mom was actually from the North, like, no, our family's from the North too, because she's originally from Ohio. So I don't really feel like I'm from like the North either. Like, I don't really have any of the traits, I guess, Northerners, more city life, more like suburban-esque qualities, I guess is what would be considered like Northern. I don't know. I just don't know what I consider myself. I mean, I think Thomas Jefferson was really intelligent. There's just things that we have to accept when we look back in history. It's kind of rough, with the slavery and those types of issues, but it's still an interesting experience being here, just seeing what he created. But then just to think that it was all in debt too is just weird, that's exactly what's happening today still. So one of the biggest things I learned today was how you make money when you have slaves, and it's not that they're working in the field, because they say that, that's just putting food on the table. It's because you're not paying any of them. That's how you make a profit. And I thought that was just so weird. It's just like, okay, then we're not doing anything really to help the situation. And if it was all in debt, it's like, what's the point? So that was just something weird I thought about the whole experience. But still a really nice place. So we're just trying to enjoy the gardens.
Okay, so this is the very back portion of the Monticello Gardens. In a very open space. And the very back is the thick of the woods. But it just provides a very open atmosphere. And it looks pretty much untouched by time, other than all the people there. That's the tree. This is on the return leg of the back portion of the gardens to walk back to Monticello. It was really nice, so we had to pose with it. So there I am doing a Captain Morgan pose, drink responsibly. And there I am getting ready to charging, bam. Yes, I had to do a jumping shot because I was so excited. There's Bella. She's one of my best friends. She's so cute. And she really helped me film and do all this. And that's me, sitting on the tree chair. These flowers, I can't even. They were named like Harry Louise bells. I don't even know. But they were basically fiery tulips. They just give off the impression of fire. It was really cool. That's me posing with it. So then we went to the Jefferson Family Cemetery, which is at the very end of the tour, basically. That was the seal of it. This is also where the obelisk is that recognizes Jefferson. And what was really interesting is, we're going to go to a video in a second just showing the overall obelisk in general, is that the first person buried here was not actually a Jefferson family by blood. It was a childhood friend of Jefferson. They were kids, like little boys. They would ride around the hill that Monticello is built on. And they both promised each other that they would, if one of them died first, they would promise that the other one would bury them there. And he ended up becoming Jefferson's brother-in-law, and he actually did die before Jefferson. So that was the first person buried in the cemetery, was his childhood friend. So I thought that was kind of cool. And that's basically describing the fact that Jefferson's childhood friend was the first one buried here. And yes, Jefferson died on July 4th, on the anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And then John Adams died not long after, saying Jefferson lives, not knowing that Jefferson had actually died. Isn't that crazy? That's me leaving, getting onto one of the many shuttles. Okay, this was probably the most interesting part. This is actually an African-American slavery graveyard. There are just tons. I know that's not an exact term, but there are a huge and vast amount of African-American slaves buried here. And it's considered, this is just some of the information right here. It's apparently these are considered the first institutions for black Americans. The graveyards, yeah, right there. It says nearly 400 men, women, and children are buried in that one plot. It was just really intense to see it. So, and they've honored them now, but that was all they got, really. And that's basically the listing of all the families that were buried there. So that was probably the saddest part of the trip. It was still really interesting. It ties with what we read. I feel like it ties with what we read because the whole part of what we read in Southern literature class was the perspective of someone who was free on slavery. And I feel like that type of cemetery just sums it up entirely. Unmarked, I just imagine that all the bones are just mixed together in a haphazard way. I believe one family got like one plot, so they're all stacked on top of each other. It's a grim reminder of a lot of things that have happened in our past, that we just have sort of need to just understand that while it's awful to think about and we probably wouldn't want to think about it all the time, it's important that we never forget altogether, because that would just mean it's reborn in another way. So, I'm not entirely sure if that was the intention of this, to make everyone feel kind of down, but I think that's the important thing of history, is to always remember where we come from and where we're going.
Alright, so where are we going now, Jeffrey?
Going home.
Great. Alright, so you did this for your Southern literature class, right?
I did do it for my Southern literature class.
So what do you think about that class, whatever you studied? Or
Well, I do like literature and reading. It was a tough semester. I don't know if it was because it was an online class and it was just more difficult for me to get into the flow of certain things. But some of the stuff we read was really good. My favorite was probably getting to read As I Lay Dying by Faulkner, just because there were so many levels to it, so many interpretations. You can always go back to it and reread it. But it was definitely difficult. Just some of the Southern dialect and cliches were kind of lost on me, and sometimes it wasn't as interesting to read. But overall, I think it was a pretty cool class, and I am ready for this semester to be over.
okay, do you have any final thoughts from your day at Monticello?
All I have to say is that the Jefferson family liked to play board games too.